You're so hold by hope from a plastic soul. You know, you're so. You and I could break the sky. All these shades inside. Oh, you and I could break the sky. All these shades inside. Gorging free to that choking breeze. You know, you're so you'll break free when you're on your knees. You know, oh, it says you and I can break the sky. All these shades inside. Oh, you and I can break the sky. All these shades inside. Let's have one high, raise your hands and tears. Oh, let's suck it dry. Live our lives in chains. All the fear we try to walk all around town. Born and raised by corporate names, you know, you're so hold by hope from a plastic soul. You know, you're so. You and I can break the sky. All these shades inside. Oh, you and I can break the sky. All these shades inside. Gorging free to that choking breeze. You know, you're so you'll break free when you're on your knees. You know, oh, it says you and I can break the sky. All these shades inside. Oh, you and I can break the sky. All these shades inside. Let's have one high, raise your hands and tears. Oh, let's suck it dry. Live our lives in chains. All the fear we try to walk all around town. Born and raised by corporate names, you know, you're so hold by hope from a plastic soul. You know, you're so. You and I can break the sky. All these
Hello. Welcome. Thanks for joining me, folks. Please take a second to hit subscribe and like and all that stuff. That was the amazing Rooftop Revolutionaries with the song Chains. Check out that album if you haven't already. Big news, breaking news as of yesterday or maybe late the day before. But the outlets in the mainstream media, including the New York Times, have suddenly decided that they think Julian Assange should be freed. And by the way, I made a mistake when we created the thumbnail for this. I put the Washington Post on there. The Washington Post is not part of it. So, ignore that. If you were going to give the Washington Post any modicum of credit for doing this 10 years too late, don't do it. But again, I don't know how much credit these mainstream media outlets should get, considering they're 10 years too late on this. This is... look, I'll get into the details in a second, but this is standard operating procedure in many ways for these horrible mainstream media outlets, where they will cover up an inconvenient truth for the empire until 10 years later, 5 years later. The weapons of mass destruction, it was years before they basically admitted it. It was years. I don't know if the mainstream media has ever covered the fact that the Gulf of Tonkin was a storm cloud. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was us firing for hours at a storm cloud. That was revealed by the former Defense Secretary McNamara, or at least admitted to by McNamara in the documentary The Fog of War. So he conceded it, but I don't know if the mainstream media did. So maybe they're still waiting on the day they do that. And who knows when they might cover that the CIA killed Kennedy or other things like that. But anyway, 10 years late, they are now suddenly... major news outlets urge the U.S. to drop its charges against Assange, and it does include the New York Times. So this is the New York Times writing, and I want to go through most of this article because it's kind of a hilarious mix of too little, too late, and bullshit and propaganda. And also I have I don't want to call it a theory, a possible idea of what this might mean. That anyway, you'll see. I'll just tuck that into my vest for the moment. The New York Times and 4 European news organizations, including Guardian, Le Monde, Der Spiegel, and El País. The New York Times and 4 European news organizations called on the U.S. government on Monday to drop its charges against Julian Assange, the WikiLeaks founder, for obtaining and publishing classified diplomatic military secrets. Those outlets said the prosecution of Mr. Assange under the Espionage Act sets a dangerous precedent that threatened to undermine the First Amendment and the freedom of press. Oh, you think? I mean, so this would be, like I said, it's a nice mix of too little, too late with propaganda. How is it they just realized that? They just realized this sets a dangerous precedent. You guys, New York Times, woke up yesterday, you're like, I think this might set a dangerous precedent for torturing a fucking journalist, a publisher for years. Not only a publisher, not only a journalist, but the most accurate journalist slash publisher that has ever lived. Not a single thing WikiLeaks has ever published has been proven false or inaccurate, whereas New York Times can't go half a sentence without being inaccurate. So you compare those two, it's really no comparison. You have the best journalist to ever live and one of the most horrific propaganda outlets to ever exist. Of course, one of them is protected by the U.S. empire. The other one is being persecuted by the U.S. empire. There is a reason for these things. So, but that doesn't mean I don't celebrate that they have finally done this. 10 years too late, but I am glad they're doing this. Because here's the thing, is the people that I always criticize, who are sociopaths, are at the top of this system. They listen to outlets like the New York Times, the Washington Post. Those outlets, the Guardian, those outlets can influence them in a way that I cannot influence them. So I support this, even if it is laughably too late. I mean, how can you say something like it's a dangerous precedent and not go, why did we just decide this today? Why did we, like, what the fuck? You know, it's like having a kid who's just been, you're raising him and he's just been a terror his entire life. Just fucking awful from age 2 on. I won't blame him for before 2, but and then at 18, you're like, I think my kid's not a good guy. It's like, where you been for the past 16 years? You knew he was a shithead back in kindergarten. Didn't just pop up yesterday. Dangerous precedent that threatened to undermine the First Amendment and the freedom of press. I mean, and here's another thing, is that's a fucking epic sentence right there, right? Undermining the First Amendment and freedom of press. That's no small potatoes, as they say. That sounds like something that the New York Times and these other outlets should have been really pissed off about immediately, right? Undermining the First Amendment and the freedom of press. That sounds like something they should have fucking been on, but instead they were like sleeping on it for fucking 10 years. And let's be honest, they weren't sleeping on it. They were doing the bidding of the U.S. empire. And yes, that goes for those other outlets as well. I know not all of them are in America. Guardian's British, but they're still doing the bidding of the U.S. empire. They're vassal states. Obtaining and disclosing sensitive information, the article continues. Obtaining and disclosing sensitive information when necessary in the public interest is a core part of the daily work of journalists, the letter said. We just realized after 10 years. If that work is criminalized, our public discourse and our democracies are made significantly weaker, they just realized after 10 years. Mr. Assange, I mean, do you have any idea how long 10 fucking years ago is? Like 10 years. Occupy had just happened. Occupy Wall Street. That was 10 years ago. All right. We were halfway through the Obama administration 10 years ago. Like, this is a long time ago. Mr. Assange, who has been, Biden was only 98 years old 10 years ago. Mr. Assange, who's been fighting extradition from Britain since his arrest in 2019. And again, they don't mention the fact that, yes, he was arrested. He was dragged out of the Ecuadorian embassy in 2019. However, he was in the Ecuadorian embassy for 7 years before that because he knew that this is exactly what would happen to him. He was exactly right. And there were articles at the time, these garbage people, the writers for The Guardian and such, saying, oh, he's hiding in the Ecuadorian embassy, but then nothing would happen to him if he came out. It's just his own ego that makes him stay in there. And then, sure enough, they drag him out and put him in prison. So, I'm sure he's waiting for those apology calls. And I don't think, with all you watching, I don't think I have to explain to you that Assange is everything Assange revealed is incredibly important. He changed the history of the American empire in incredibly significant, important, and needed ways. He revealed the insane war crimes of the U.S. But the other thing is, and you know, nobody really much talks about these because the U.S. empire's truths that came out are the ones that he's being prosecuted for. The U.S. empire is the one going after him. So most people don't talk about these other things. But WikiLeaks revealed truths about countries around the world. It was not just a "I'm going to get the U.S." Entity. It was a transparency entity for people who are supposedly voting, supposedly, ostensibly, in our little democracy, supposedly voting informed, right? Informed voters. That's the whole idea. We're supposed to be informed as to what these monsters, these psychopaths, these criminals at the top, we're supposed to be informed as to what they're doing. That's kind of how this whole system works. If we had a democracy, which we don't, I'm not going to go into that lecture right now, but if we had a democracy, the whole idea, the whole concept with those founding fathers, those slave owners that we love so much, if the whole idea is that you can vote on these things if you know what's being done in your name. And yet, here you have someone who actually revealed the stuff that Americans should know, what's being done, that's being done in their name, the Iraq war logs, the Afghanistan papers, the cable gate, all of these things we should know that's going on with the U.S. empire. And when it comes out, first of all, mainstream media, they initially worked with Assange and then they realized, oh, we have to do the empire's bidding, so we'll just let him be sacrificed. We'll let him be hung out to dry. But in general, the mainstream media covers up all of that stuff. That's their job, is to cover up the crimes of the empire. But then, secondly, they literally attacked him, and the American people, a combination of ignoring and the facts that he revealed and buying into the propaganda against him. But you know, again, this is roughly 10 years too late coming from the New York Times and others, but I still am glad they did it. Let's see. So yes, they say he was arrested in 2019, but the truth is he's been in basically 2 rooms for the past 10 years. And the reason he fled to the Ecuadorian embassy is because he was being persecuted. They were accusing him of crimes he didn't commit. By the way, all those charges were dropped because there was no evidence there. Each of the 5 organizations, and this is a key paragraph that I'm sure they put it in there, but they didn't want to. Each of the 5 organizations, New York Times, Der Spiegel, Guardian, El País, there's another one, worked with Mr. Assange in 2010 and 2011 during the events at the heart of the criminal case. Oh, shit. I just knocked water all over myself. Give me 1 second. That's a first. I blame the CIA, honestly. That is the first time I've ever knocked shit on myself during a live stream. Please, everybody, I want to take an online poll as to whether you think the CIA did that just now, or whether you think that I could really be that klutzy. I think not. I think we know who was involved in this. All right. Anyway, they all worked with him back then, 2010, 2011, and then they turned on him. But basically by ignoring him. Some of them actively did articles against him, but for the most part, there were some of those, but for the most part, they just ignored him. So, I mean, imagine, and they did some epic reporting with him. It wasn't like small stuff. It wasn't the bullshit that still gets the front page of the New York Times, that side story that's like, here's the best place to get apples in Manhattan at a bodega or whatever the fuck. These were groundbreaking stories of war crimes, intentional and clear war crimes perpetrated by the United States and others. and they did work. They worked with him, but then I've always said that I've always called the again. This is another one of these phrases that I believe I came up with, but I'm sure others have said it. I can't be the only one. That the mainstream media are the white blood cells of the empire. So when something pops up that is considered an infection to the empire that could harm the health of the empire. So you and I, if you've got half a brain cell, would view them as the good guys, right? They are the Julian Assanges of the world and the Edward Snowdens and these people. They are the right and you know, considering I'm the most censored comedian in America and I've been purged from all these outlets and everything, and my YouTube channel banned around the world, I also was apparently threatening enough to be purged in that way. Oh, and I was there was attack pieces written about me in the New York Times, cover of the arts section, NPR's Addiction Weekend Edition, and some other places. But Daily Beast. But so those were the white blood cells coming after anything that might reveal the truth of the empire. And generally, that's how our mainstream media works. They, however, did a little bit of journalism with Julian Assange in 2010 and 2011, and then they stopped. And by the way, you saw the impacts of the work they did with Assange because it sparked off the Arab Spring in many ways. It's quite possible Occupy Wall Street wouldn't have happened without WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and the revelations that came out of that. So they saw the result. It also helped feed the energy for the Bernie Sanders movement. So they saw the result, and both the ruling class and the mainstream media, which is the ruling class, at least the people at the top of it, they realized Julian Assange and serious transparency needed to be stopped, because you see the truth. When Americans see the truth as to how our system worked, many won't stand for it and start to get ideas like things need to change. So they had a big shift after, I'll just keep reading here for a second. WikiLeaks, which obtained leaked archives of classified American diplomatic cables and military files, gave early access to the troves to traditional news outlets, which published articles about notable revelations. A spokeswoman for the Times said that the company's publisher, in consultation with the legal department, decided to sign the letter. The newsroom was not involved. The case against Mr. Assange is complicated. No, it's not. And does not turn on the question of whether he is considered a journalist, but rather on whether his journalistic style, activities of soliciting and publishing classified information can or should be treated as a crime. Don't believe that bullshit. It's not complicated. It's very uncomplicated. And something else the New York Times doesn't want to tell you in this article, in one of the few times that they're actually standing up for Assange, they don't want to tell you that the main witness, the key witness, the FBI's key witness, that the U.S. state, the FBI helped secure him, but the U.S. state used in prosecuting Assange in Britain, he's from Iceland, I believe, has gone back on everything he said and has admitted that he made it up to get out of his own pedophilia charges and other criminal charges, because basically he was told by the U.S. state, you say these things about Assange and we will stop coming after you. And so he did. But and he's basically a sociopath and a weird dude. And he realized that if he later he then admitted that he had, Siggy is his nickname, but he later admitted that he'd made it all up. And the New York Times doesn't want to tell you that. Hey, the key witness against Assange has admitted he made it all up. They don't want to mention that. Maybe that would be something that, readers maybe should know. No, you think? The letter comes as Attorney General Merrick Garland has sought to rein in ways in which the Justice Department has made it harder for journalists to do their jobs. Oh, yeah. Has he really? In October, he issued new regulations that ban the use of subpoenas, warrants, or court orders to seize reporters' communications, records, or demand their notes or testimony in order to uncover confidential sources in leak investigations. I mean, honestly, these are small things that should have been that should be obvious. Like, fucking, of course, you can't do that shit. But step one to the Biden administration should be dropping the charges against Assange. Step one of the Obama administration should have been making sure that he could come out of the Ecuadorian embassy and not fear persecution. Step one of the Trump administration should have been to not bring charges against him. And then Pompeo, as head of the CIA, actually crafted plans with the CIA to either kidnap or kill Julian Assange. This has been widely reported. It's not a secret, but the New York Times apparently is not familiar enough with the fact that we plotted to assassinate Assange to actually report on it in their article, supposedly standing up for Assange. Again, I'm thankful they're signing this letter, but it's too little, too late in multiple regards. They talk about Chelsea Manning, who bravely revealed so many war crimes and was ultimately commuted. I mean, Obama commuted her sentence, but she'd been just tortured beyond belief. I mean, in a variety of ways for years and years. And then after Obama, they then come up with some grand jury bullshit and they put her back in prison for another year, trying to get her to lie about Assange in order to prosecute him more effectively. Miss Manning's disclosures amounted to one of the most extraordinary leaks in American history. They included about 250,000 State Department cables that revealed many secret things around the world. Dossiers about Guantanamo Bay detainees being held without trial and logs of significant events in Afghanistan and Iraq wars that divulged, among other things, the civilian casualties were higher than official estimates. The letter noted that the same 5 institutions had publicly criticized Mr. Assange in 2011 when unredacted copies of the cables were released, revealing the names of people in dangerous countries. And they mention this, but there's no example of any of these people that were revealed in Cablegate suffering any ramifications to the fact that their name was revealed. So while the government tries to say, oh, he put people at risk, and it's like, first of all, you can't list one person that has died from the result of these things. But beyond that, you want to know what puts more people at risk? Your fucking war crimes. All right? Don't do dirty, dark, corrupt shit if you don't want your dirty, dark, corrupt shit to be revealed. That should be the title of every goddamn article that about all these U.S. empire defenses against Assange. They're like, well, he revealed stuff about diplomatic case. Don't do dirty, corrupt shit. Like Hillary Clinton, right? Well, he revealed my emails. Don't do dirty, corrupt shit. And then your emails won't show dirty, corrupt shit. Do you get it? Do I need to say it 4 more times? Like, for fuck's sake, every time one of these people, Hillary, Podesta, all these goddamn losers, sociopaths that he revealed our emails that said things, then don't do dirty, corrupt shit, and it wouldn't be revealed. You see how that works? I mean, just incredible. While the Obama administration and career law enforcement and national security officials disliked Mr. Assange, transparency advocates and anti-war activists treated him as an icon. Disliked him. Oh, yeah. You think they disliked him? They made it like, it made him enemy number 1 of the American empire because he showed what the American empire was up to in a way that no one ever had. And he was enemy number 1. Hillary Clinton joked about drone bombing him. Legit said, can't we just drone bomb him? Like, that is how nervous these criminals are of what they're involved in. His public image shifted significantly after WikiLeaks published Democratic emails that had been hacked by the Russian government. Okay, that's utterly false. There is zero evidence it was hacked by the Russian government. In fact, if you actually followed the day-to-day of this that went on for months, it wasn't even hacked. It was the DNC emails were leaked. Tough to say who. Some say Seth Rich, but whoever leaked them, they were leaked. It wasn't a hack, and it wasn't from Russia. And, that doesn't fit with the whole Russiagate bullshit that the New York Times has to put forward. The open letters notes the Obama administration, the open letter by the mainstream media, New York Times, etc., notes that the Obama administration had weighed charging Mr. Assange in connection with Manning leaks, but did not do so, in part because there was no clear way to legally distinguish WikiLeaks actions from those of traditional news organizations like the Times that write about national security matters. Yeah, like literally what Assange did is legally the exact same as what your mainstream media is supposed to do. And I played a clip a long time ago, or 2 years ago or something. Bob Woodward, he's held up as like the epitome of U.S. journalist, right? He revealed the Nixon and Watergate and everything, and led to Nixon's downfall. So Woodward is held up as this esteemed, oh my God, what a great journalist. Woodward did one of those dumb master classes on YouTube where they're like, join your teacher, Bob Woodward. I don't know how much you have to pay for those things, as he tells you how to be a journalist. And in the trailer for the thing, it shows him going. He's like, everything everything important I've ever revealed. I mean, I'm way paraphrasing, but this is the idea of it. Everything important I've ever revealed has come from anonymous sources. It's come from people in government who were willing to say what's going on, and some of them they need a little pushing, they need a little recommendation. They come to you and they say they want to reveal it, and then they go, oh, I don't know, and then he said there's some line where Woodward goes, and you have to say to them, you go, hey, it's time to grow some balls. It's time to, are we going to pussyfoot around on this or what? And basically this is Woodward saying that all the important things he's revealed have come from inside sources, many of them kept anonymous, who were willing to leak things to him, which is exactly what Julian Assange did. And in fact, I don't think they've come up with any evidence that Julian Assange ever said, hey, let's stop pussyfooting around or whatever the fuck. Assange said, hey, people have stuff they want to reveal, send it to WikiLeaks. We will reveal it. We won't reveal you. And by the way, if anyone doesn't recall, Chelsea Manning's identity was not revealed by WikiLeaks. It was revealed by Chelsea Manning, unfortunately. I get that it was a mistake, but she trusted someone and she told them that she was the one who leaked the war logs. If it hadn't been for that, she would have remained anonymous because WikiLeaks system kept their informants anonymous. But anyway, there's actually on-camera footage of Bob Woodward saying the greatest journalism is done exactly the way Julian Assange. Now, he doesn't say Julian Assange's name, right? Because he's mainstream media and they can't support Julian Assange. So, but it's just a great example of how Assange is no different from other journalists. The only difference is he was willing to go there. He was willing to reveal the truth. In fact, to show how much your mainstream media is not willing to do what Assange was willing to do, meaning actually reveal the crimes of the U.S. empire, I just interviewed Greg Palast, investigative journalist, and there's kind of a bit at the end where we're kind of getting away from the main topic, and Palast, he was the one who basically revealed how tens of thousands of votes were deleted in Florida in the Bush v. Gore presidential campaign. and Bush never, if they hadn't been deleted by his brother, who was governor at the time, Jeb Bush, if they hadn't been deleted, then Gore would have won. Now, you guys can debate in the chat whether it matters whether Gore or Bush won, but Ballas was the one who revealed that these tens of thousands had been purged, deleted from the voter rolls. So he then, this is what he told me in the interview this week, which you can watch for free at youtube.com/behindtheheadlines. I'll put the link in the comment section. But he said that. So he had the story, and this is immediately after Bush v. Gore. He had the story, and he goes and to CBS, I believe, Dan Rather, whichever channel Dan Rather was on, and Dan Rather's show is going to cover it. And he gives them all his information. He says, I'm giving you one of the biggest stories I've ever uncovered, but you can get it to a bigger audience. So here, take it. He gives them everything. And a week goes by, and he contacts him, and he goes, well, what happened? You guys were going to reveal this incredible story that shows how this presidency was stolen. And the representative or whatever, the person that he's working with at Rather's office says, oh, yeah, we're not going to do it because we called President-elect Bush, and they said it's not true. So there you go, folks. That's your mainstream media. Call the government, and whatever they tell you is the reality. That's the reality. That's it. Just incredible. All right, so one more thing before I get to the many other topics I have. There is no precedent, the New York Times says, in the United States for prosecuting a publisher of information as opposed to a spy or a government official who leaked secrets under the Espionage Act. I'll repeat that. There's no precedent in the U.S. for prosecuting a publisher under the Espionage Act. Zero precedent. Keep in mind, Assange is also not a U.S. citizen, and the New York Times is not mentioning this, not a U.S. citizen, WikiLeaks never functioned from the United States, was never headquartered here. Assange has no connection to the United States, and there is zero precedent of prosecuting a publisher under the Espionage Act. The Trump administration, and I love how New York Times loves to keep putting this on the Trump administration. Trump administration is fucking awful and garbage. But let's be honest. Now we're multiple years into the Biden administration. They haven't undone it. They could have undone it. Day one, they could have stopped this shit. They didn't. The Trump administration's decision to bring such charges against Mr. Assange raised novel and profound questions about the meaning of the First Amendment. Novel and profound questions about the meaning of the First Amendment that the New York Times and the Guardian and Der Spiegel and the others just decided to address yesterday. Grave, what did they say? Novel and profound questions about the meaning of the First Amendment that we're going to wait 10 fucking years to address. And I get Trump didn't do his thing until whatever, 3-4 years ago. But so let's say we're going to wait 4 fucking years to address. Fuck you, New York Times. But also I'm glad they put out this letter. So I want to say this. I teased it at the beginning of this story. Wouldn't it be amazing? And I have no inside knowledge. I'm just fucking riffing here. Wouldn't it be amazing if the reason these mainstream outlets, including the New York Times, was the New York Times does not do anything that is not essentially signed off on. Oh, thanks, lemongrass. Essentially signed off on by the American empire. Yes, they'll reveal truths about our military and stuff, but it's the lighter side truths that basically make them continue to seem legit. So, considering the New York Times does almost nothing of this level that isn't approved by the American empire, is it possible they're getting ready to release Assange? Wouldn't that be incredible? And I look, too little, too late. I agree on that front, but it would be so amazing if the reason these mainstream media outlets, which are arms of the corporate state, felt secure in writing this letter now because they knew something was on the horizon. But anyway, a long story short, some people are saying the YouTube stream keeps shutting down. I don't know if that's true, but if so, I'm sorry to hear that. But you can watch at rumble.com/Lee Camp. But long story short, we have to keep this pressure up. We have to keep like if Assange, as with Chelsea Manning, if Assange were not being talked about online, if there weren't protests going on constantly. Now I get that it's not like everybody knows his name. It's not like he's covered in the mainstream media. I get he's not Kanye West or Elon Musk. I get it, but the level he is talked about and covered is still very significant. And without that, I don't think that this would be I don't think the mainstream media would have done that. I don't think New York Times would have put out this letter, and I don't think we'd be having this discussion right now because there'd be no chance, there'd be no shot of him getting his freedom. I was just and speaking of this same note, I was just on. I did a live event with Julian Assange's father, John Shipton. And I basically interviewed him on stage for an audience. And he and Stella Morris, Assange's wife, say that an extradition trial has been going on in Britain for the past few years as to whether he should be extradited is she said 99% atmosphere, political atmosphere, and 1% law. So that shows how impactful what you and I and everyone else who has fought to keep Assange in the news, how impactful we are. Because that trial and what's happening right now, and even the New York Times putting out this letter, it has to do with that 99% atmosphere. It does not have to do with that 1% law. So thank you for all of you who have continued this fight for Assange and his family. Who, I have spoken with his father, his brother, and his wife, and they're all incredibly thankful for you guys keeping this fight going. Okay, I want to move on. Let's see. I'll do one more story before we shift over to Rumble, but. This is a nice little story. Well, actually, let me tease the others though. Where major rail strike may still happen. That's looming. I have a new episode of the Most Censored News, my new show with Mint Press. I'm gonna play that on the live stream. But if you want to subscribe to that, that is also at youtube.com/behindtheheadlines. And that one is on what's going on in Syria right now and why the fuck the U.S. is still there. But let's get to what our amazing Democrats have been doing. And honestly, much like the Republicans, the Democrats, it's like they just can't not deliver. They just deliver on everything they promise. Republicans, Democrats, either one you support, they're just always delivering on everything they say they're going to secure for us. It's just every time, like boom, 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 boom. They're like, like the Democrats are like, you go to one of those, you're at like an amusement park and they got the thing where you throw the baseball at the lead bottles and nobody can fucking do it. And then they walk up, Mr. Democrats, and just boom, 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 bottle, 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 bottle. And you're like, this guy never misses. That's what the Democrats are. If anybody doesn't understand sarcasm, please turn off the live stream right now. Okay. Democrats succumb to political reality on the same-sex marriage bill. And by the way, this is classic propaganda in the Hill headline, because if you were to tell the truth about this, it'd be Democrats cave per usual on another one of their promises. And instead, because the Hill is doing, they're running damage control for the Democrats, they say succumb to political reality, meaning they had no choice. What could they do? They really wanted to. It just didn't work out. They they wanted to protect abortion rights, and they wanted they wanted to give everybody health care, and they wanted to decrease the prison population, and they wanted to end the wars. They just can't because of political reality. God. Thanks, Hill, for doing an amazing job. You folks at the Hill, you should be very proud of yourselves, folks at the Hill, for the fucking garbage you pump out. The Senate's Respect for Marriage Act has progressives arguing that efforts to safeguard same-sex unions remain unfinished after concessions were made to Republican demands for bolstered religious liberty protections. The bill, as it currently stands, would officially repeal the Defense of Marriage Act and require state recognition of legal same-sex and interracial marriages, but would not codify the Supreme Court's 2015 ruling in Obergefell v. Hodges that legalized same-sex unions nationwide or prevent the High Court from eventually overturning the landmark decision. So I wanted to bring this up for a couple of reasons, not just to show how the Democrats always fail at the things they say they're going to do, but this has a lot of this is very analogous to what happened with a woman's right to choose. Basically, the Democrats have had many chances over the years, over the past however many years since Roe v. Wade, many chances where they've had the Senate, the House, and the presidency. And during all of that time, they never codified, which is a fucking fancy law guy term for put into the law. They never put into the law, put into the Constitution, put into the documents of the country that a woman has a right over her own body. They never did that. They just kept acting like they wanted to. Maybe next year, oh, we can't. But they didn't do it for multiple reasons. One is because they have a million backroom deals going on with Republicans. Hey, you don't do this, we won't do that. So, but they don't want to admit to that. So instead they say, oh, we tried, but the parliamentarian got in the way. Or there wasn't enough of the Kirsten Sinema or whatever the fuck. Joe Manchin wouldn't let us do it. And it's like, then maybe you shouldn't keep letting him call himself a fucking Democrat if he doesn't stand for the same shit. But of course, and here's the second reason that some of it has to do with backroom dealing. But much of it has to do with the fact that the Democrats don't actually stand for the things they claim to stand for, almost across the board. Neither do most of the Republicans, although the Republicans are more. The difference between the Democrats and Republicans will piss on your face and say, hey, I'm pissing on your face. The Democrats will then be the next in line, and they'll piss on your face and go, it's raining gold. That's basically the difference. Neither of them do anything generally positive for the American people. Again, I'll mention it because I think nothing better shows people what the American system is made up of. But the large Princeton study that showed that nothing gets through Congress that does not align with corporate America. So it means that corporate America owns our system. So if the Americans want anything that doesn't align with corporate America, healthcare, laws that decrease the prison population, no more slavery, because we do have slavery in prison, no more wars. If we want any of that doesn't align with corporate America, never, zero, ever happens, zero. Then that is not a democracy. And even if the percentages of Americans say they want it, so what is it, 70 or 80% say they want healthcare in America? Never happens. Not in the universal way. Now, what Obamacare is it was it got more people onto insurance, but it was a giant giveaway to the insurance companies. So sure, it helped some people get insurance, but really it aligned with corporate America, which is exactly what this is saying. Anyway, so this is very analogous to what happened with abortion rights. Is the Democrats did nothing to codify it, failed to codify it, and then it gets overturned by a right-wing Supreme Court. which very much could happen to gay marriage, could happen tomorrow. But this is the same shit. And so now the Hill is running coverage, running defense. And so they say they just gave in to political reality. They had to do it. Then they say things like this. Senator Brian Schatz said, because I don't actually follow the play-by-play of these senators, because I don't actually give a fuck what a lot of them say, because it doesn't matter. I don't actually know a lot of their names. And I just love that this guy's name is Schatz. He shats on your face, and then he shats on everything you want. And then he tells you that it's raining gold. He said, it would be great if the bill went further. Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? But we don't have the votes for the bill to go further. Oh, man. But here's another point, that when people say, on a lot of these things, people will say, oh, Obama wanted to do A, B, and C. He wanted to decrease the prison population, or he wanted to end fossil fuel use or whatever, but he just couldn't because Republicans, right? Republicans stopped him. But here's the thing. If he actually wanted to do those things, he would be on TV every day talking about them. He would create the political reality. Remember with the Assange thing we just a minute ago talked about 99% political atmosphere? That's a lot of it in these situations too. He would be on TV every day going, we are the largest prison state in the world. To use one example, largest prison state in the world. We need to fucking change that, and we need to do it now. So they need to pass laws that make it so that somebody who's got some small nonviolent crime isn't locked up for years. And it needs to happen immediately. And if he were on TV every day ringing that bell, and then the mainstream media, of course, covers it because Obama's on TV every day saying that, it would change everything. It would change everything. And they know this. They know that's true, which is why they're not doing that. And Trump knew that was true too, which is why he did do that on certain things. He went on stage, went on Twitter, went on everywhere, and changed the political reality simply by talking about it. Most of what Trump did, the things he quote unquote achieved, now many of them were, maybe almost all of them were right-wing horror shows, but most of what he did was not through Congress, right? I think the only thing that I recall going through Congress was him passing one of the largest tax cuts for the rich ever, which means Congress agreed with that as well. Everything else, he just fucking did. So how can the Democrat, and I'm talking now about across the country, Democrats, liberals, mainstream media liberals, how can they say, oh, Biden just can't do these things, he's trying, but how can they say that while also saying Trump just did all those things? Oh my God, Trump's a horror show. He just did all this stuff. Boy, isn't that funny? Trump was able to just do all this stuff, and yet Biden can't get anything done because Congress stops him, or the parliamentarian stops him, or all this bullshit. The Democratic Party does not want to get their shit through because they don't actually believe in it. And to me, that's one of the biggest reasons. With my interview with Greg Palast, which, again, you can watch at youtube.com/behindtheheadlines, he was talking about legitimate voter theft. This is tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of votes or voters just purged from the rolls in Georgia. And they were purged mainly against people who were likely to vote Democratic. So black people, Hispanic people, etc. Now, why does the Democratic Party give zero coverage to the revelations that Palast reveals, to the revelations that Palast uncovers? Why? Because they don't want to win everything. Like if they actually had 60% of the Senate and fucking, whatever, 70% of the House, they would have to do all the things they claim to want. They would have to end fossil fuel use. They would have to end wars or end, codify abortion rights, codify gay marriage. But they don't want that. So they allow, or at least don't talk about it. I don't know whether they could stop it or not, but they don't talk about the hundreds of thousands of voters that are purged from the rolls in, for example, Georgia. because they're sociopaths and they believe all the same things as the Republic, essentially all the same things. 89% of the core issues of our country, they believe the same shit. I mean, honestly, on foreign policy, tell me the difference. Tell me the difference. The difference is that there's a handful of Republicans who are legitimately seem to be anti-war because they feel isolationism is better for America. Now, I don't give a shit about their reasons. I'm also anti-war, so if they're going to stand up against our proxy war in Ukraine, then great. But you know, how do we end up in a place where the Democrats are the ones defending the CIA, the FBI, the military, our belligerent destroy other countries every day and twice on Tuesday? The Democrats are the one defending all that shit. And most of the Republicans will vote for it too. But then you have a handful of Republicans that are actually against that shit. It shows how the two parties are meaningless. Do you get it now? And I'm sorry to shake the desk, but maybe that helps make the point when the camera shakes. That's what you don't get from your bullshit overproduced television like the show I used to have, Redacted Tonight. That's what you don't get, is when the guy gets angry, the camera shakes. That doesn't happen on fucking NBC News. All right. So the rest of this live stream, which I have more stories coming up, and I'm going to show you the new episode of Most Censored News, which why would you miss that? Is at rumble.com/Lee Camp. That's rumble.com/Lee Camp. Join me over there. It is, when you get over there, it's the top one that says live, that says Assange, blah, blah, blah. Go over there and I'll see you there, free to watch. And if you're so lazy that you can't type in this new this other website and go over there, and if you're watching over there, nothing changes, by the way. If you're so lazy that you can't head over there, then please still become a member at leecamp.net. I can't support or keep any of this going without your help at leecamp.net. So, and I will see you over there. Thanks a lot. Goodbye, Facebook. Goodbye, YouTube. But seriously, join